Well, hello, little duckling. Do you mind if I take a seat right here, sweetie? Right. Are you sure you don't mind? Thank you. Thank you. So, sweetie, not to intrude, but I can't help but notice that, you've got a bit of tears going on here. And no, love. No, love. I have a bit of Kleenex in the purse here. I was wondering if you might like one. Just one of those little packages right there. There you are, sweetie. There. Hope that feels a little better. Now, I hope you don't mind. Not trying to meddle or anything. But, may I ask, what's going on? To have you tucked here amongst the trees with a little bit of the sniffles going on? Sweetie, don't apologize. You're not being a disturbance in any way. And for that matter, you weren't even being very loud. The only reason I noticed was because I was rambling right along by the side here of the river instead of just walking up on top of the river trail like normal people do. Sweetie, take it from me, little duckling. You never need to apologize for tears. And anybody who tells you that you do, well, they don't deserve to see you cry. So there's just no reason to honor them with that vulnerability. Of course it's an honor. Being vulnerable takes courage. Crying in front of someone is one of the most vulnerable things you can do. And therefore, it takes a lot of courage. And therefore, if you're granting someone the privilege of sitting beside you when you're having a little bout of the tears, well, that shows that you trust that person. That shows that you don't think they'll... Oh, goodness, a plane. Anyway, you don't think that you'll receive any sort of a negative response, you know? And that's incredibly important, to have people like that in your life. Do you have anybody in your life like that, little one? Someone that you feel safe enough to cry around? Mm. Well, I always say, no matter the state of one's friendships and whatnot in the world, you can always stand to have someone else that you can feel safe around and hopefully protected by. Would you mind very much if I stayed on here by your side for a little bit? Otherwise, if not, I'm completely fine with just having fulfilled the role of here's a little tissue, and then I can just move on from your life, little one. No trouble at all. And I will not take offense, of course not. All right, sweetie. Do you want to talk to me about what's troubling you? You don't have to, love. Don't feel like you have to. All right, duckling. You can just sit here and enjoy the river together. Hmm? Sweetie, I have nothing to do with my day that's more important than making sure little duckling doesn't have to cry alone. All right? So please, no worries on that score. This is very important. Well, I keep calling you a little duckling because you are one. I mean, here you are, by the riverbank. Well, there's lots of ducks, although I don't really see any at the moment. But anyway, you're sitting here at the side of the river where all the ducks are. So obviously you're a duckling. Poor sweetie. What's that? Well, of course. Of course, if it's not disturbing you in any way, I'm more than happy to chat with you a bit. But like I say, I don't wish to be a disturbance. I just don't want you to be alone, little one. Crying all by yourself is sometimes feels like the safest thing to do when you're feeling so troubled. And sometimes, depending on the people in your life, it is. But it's a rare sort of lonely, crying all by yourself with no one to be there. And yeah, I don't want that for you. But yes, of course, I can chatter away a bit. Let's see. Butterfly. Did you see it? I think that was a monarch. No. Monarchs are a nearly worldwide symbol for mental resilience, don't you know? Mm-hmm. Well, they're one of the hardiest little butterflies, or they're at least in the group of butterflies that is on the hardier side. Exactly. Yep, they're the ones who migrate for thousands of miles. Well, some of them do. So, migrates. Monarchs have an interesting migrating cycle, but they also have an interesting sort of generational cycle. Monarchs, so say you're a little monarch, born in the spring. They're there, they're little monarch caterpillars, they're eating the milkweed, chomp, 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 chomp. And then they go up into beautiful monarch butterflies, and then they flutter about, and there might be a few generations of them on through the spring and summer. They don't maybe live very long, but then come like late summer, I believe, the little monarch caterpillars. They metamorph into a little bit different version of the butterfly, where they just have a much longer lifespan, and so they're sort of teenagers for a lot longer than other monarchs, and so they don't get married and have babies at that point. they start migrating. They travel, and they just end up to all sorts of places. They, as a little solo monarch versus the monarchs that they don't hatch, but we'll say hatched because sure, why not? But I suppose the caterpillars come from eggs, right? So the caterpillars hatch. So little caterpillars that hatch in early spring and whatever, like those little fellows, they get married and have babies, and then that little generation moves on further in their life, and they have progeny, and they move on further and further and further, and these little short generations of monarchs just move this little butterfly chain of descendants, as it were, farther north, and then that's where, like say in the late summer, the hardiest little generation is born, and then that little generation they themselves fly all the way south to settle in for winter, where it's where then they just sort of huddle up, and they've been jumping all along the way, and so they've got a lot of energy reserves and whatnot, and they don't use a lot in the winter. And then come spring, those widely traveled little butterflies have their kiddos, and the cycle begins all over again. And so yes, they're one of the hardiest and the heartiest little butterflies as far as their their structure is concerned and their life cycle and all things, you know? So anyway, all that to say, a marvelous representation of mental resilience. And, you know, you're reminding me very much now of monarch butterflies. I was hoping you'd ask how. So, first of all, you're crying, which means you're allowing yourself to release some of the troubled emotions that have arisen in you for some reason. You're not stuffing them away. You're not ignoring them. You're not dismissing them. You're crying and letting them out. You're releasing it. That's so good. That's so admirable. Yes, yes, little duckling, that is admirable. So first of all, that. Second of all, you've obviously come away to a place that is special to you to do this. And you've tucked yourself in here amongst the bushes and the brambles. And you're here giving yourself, until I came along, that is, I'm glad. But you were here giving yourself the solitude and the mental safety, as it were, in order to cry. And that means that you were taking care of yourself. You were not only letting yourself cry, but you made sure to protect yourself and do it in a place that's, I would assume, is special to you, and in a place where you felt safe, where you felt comfortable letting that all out. So I'm proud of you for that as well, little duckling. And then, in the midst of all that, this crazy little grandma lady came walking along the riverbank and was like, "Hello, can I insert myself into your day?" And you were so kind as to say yes, and to, interact with me here, which, let me tell you, is putting a bright spot in my day. Well, of course it is. Now, see here, love, who wouldn't, as a grandmotherly sort of creature as you see me to be, who wouldn't, as such a creature, see a sad little duckling and not be just warmly filled with a desire to help that little duckling? And then when that little duckling allowed you to sit down by them and talk a little bit, that's, talk about warmth, talk about fulfillment. That's very nice for someone like me. And so you're giving me that chance, Exactly. For people to give in this world, people need to receive. And receiving is different than taking, Taking obviously involves a whole sphere of, ethics and healthy boundaries and, self-awareness, group awareness and all of that, for it to be done in ways that when nobody is left wanting. Meanwhile, receiving means that what is being received is just being given. Like, if you're receiving, it already means that the person you're receiving from is offering, And I'm sure you have been the giver a lot in your life. It often tends to be we givers who end up sitting by ourselves, tucked amongst trees at riversides, with no one to give to us. Oh yes, little one. Oh yes. Meanwhile, as you well know, I would imagine, being the giver is wonderful. It's fulfilling, it's meaningful, it feels like you're contributing to what makes the whole world go round, But when you're receiving, you're also contributing to what makes the world go round. Have you heard of this lady named Brene Brown? She's rather a smart little youngster. on all subjects, brain and self-compassion. And have you heard of her? All right, she's a fabulous lady, fabulous young lady. And she has focused a lot of her research around the just indisputable truth that humans thrive on connection. Now, to whatever degree and in whatever amount, that varies, of course, from human to human. Most things in this world can be put on a spectrum, don't you know? But for humans, generally speaking, to be healthy, to whatever extent, they need the vital connection that is formed when a human is vulnerable to another human, and that human responds to the vulnerability with empathy and compassion. In the words of Brene Brown, we live in a society that has a pandemic of shame. And in these years, love, after we dealt with a worldwide pandemic, we have a whole lot more visual on what it is to be in the clutch of a pandemic, don't we? So yes, but think of it. Think of that. Think of us living in a worldwide pandemic, but of shame. Pretty awful, hmm? Well, I, for one, absolutely agree with Brene Brown, and I do believe that we live in a world that is so full of collective trauma and generational hurt that so often hurt people are hurting people who hurt people who hurt people who hurt people. And you young folks here in the younger generations here on the planet, you're dealing with so much sludge that is built up because of all that throughout the centuries. And you're all being so brave and so upfront about it all, and so self-aware and into just worldwide aware and caring about others and wanting to make things better. And it's so admirable, love. I'm so proud of you all. I am so proud of you. Yes, you little duckling. Well, I don't have to know you very well. Again, you've been very nice to me, and I can be proud of you for that. And I can be proud of you for being brave enough to let yourself cry, being self-compassionate enough to find yourself a little sanctuary, being gracious enough to allow a complete stranger to toddle on into your world for just a little bit, and then be courageous enough to be vulnerable with that stranger, and also patient enough to listen to her chatter on. I am proud of you. I may not know specifically what's caused you to come here and find solace, but sweetheart, it's obviously heavy. And that means that you've been troubled by it a lot. And that means that you deserve comfort. Just as a human being existing, you deserve comfort, you deserve care, you deserve notice, you deserve space. But right now you're suffering. And that means you especially deserve the attention and the advocacy and the interactions that will help you feel better, even if by the veriest little bit. So yes, love, whatever you're going through, whatever's troubling you, I'm proud of you for grappling with it. Life is hard, little one, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you. And you're still here. And you're still getting up when you fall. And you're still allowing yourself space when you fall to gather your resources to get back up. Sure, it's important to get back up when you fall, but you don't have to get back up right away. Sometimes it's a little detrimental to do so. Giving yourself time, giving yourself space is as important as giving other people time and other people space. Of course, little one. thank you for allowing me to enter into your day a little bit and, attempt to give a bit of support. Thank you for allowing that. Thank you for being a receiver as well as a giver in this scenario. You may be receiving what I'm hoping to share that is positive, but you're also giving me the opportunity to do that and making me feel like a useful little granny in this world. Now that we've got to know each other just at least a very little bit better, or at least you've got to know me a little bit better, how do you feel about maybe sharing with me a bit about what's going on? Yeah? Do you feel alright about opening up to random little grandma about all this? I've got arm to put around your shoulders, arms to wrap around you in a hug, or at the very least, two very willing ears and a heart that's warming up to you. I was already warmed up to you when I came up, and it's warming up to you even more as the minutes pass, little one. Would you be alright with that? Sharing with me a little bit?